Alright, so hopefully this is the first of many videos for the storytelling unit. One of the questions I got a lot of is, how do we adapt to the camera? You tell me, I'm working on it. We'll figure it out. So we'll have a lot of little lessons for storytelling. The way I used to tell storytelling was little lessons, but one big speech at the end. We won't be able to do that. It won't work. We're finding that on posting videos, it won't take the 2-minute videos. We're finding it'll take at max about a minute and 15 seconds is the biggest one I've seen so far. So one thing I'm seeing is with storytelling is one problem that people have is they think they're boring. That happens whenever I teach storytelling, regardless of, this. Well, now something definitely has happened to you, bright side. One other problem that people have when they're picking topics is they think they have to have like one epic thing that has happened to them. They have to have one narrative, and you don't have to do that. Even with the last story I told you, Scottish Drive-Thru, that was a collection of many times in drive-thru where my brothers and I were like messing around and goofing off. So you can take a collection of several things that have happened under one theme and group them together. Another reason why teachers are so big on theme is they relate to people, and for storytelling it helps a lot. For this lesson, I want to talk about what makes people interesting. When we're telling stories one-on-one, or not one-on-one, when we have that interaction between the audience and not with a camera, but in person, you have that wonderful interaction and you can see if someone's interested. It's a little bit harder on camera, but generally what makes people interested or interesting is, well, first of all, if they have sensory details. That's one thing that makes a story interesting. Things that pull the reader in. All the things that make for good writing make for good storytelling. So those sensory details are things like, can I smell what's there? I mean, that sounds gross, but that pulls a reader in or a listener in. Can I imagine being there because you've given me those details? Am I there with you? Can I hear what's there? So definitely we'll have other lessons on how to impersonate people, how to add characters. I had a student, I won't name names, but a student definitely said, how do I keep this from being an exposition dump? That's one of the ways. You add characters. You add the people who were there. So those sensory details. I'm looking up at my notes like a lot of you do. It's smart to put your notes either beyond where you're looking at or up above. Although too much and it looks like you're rolling your eyes or praying perhaps, but nothing wrong with that. Another thing you can do is focus on feelings. A lot of times people don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. And one misconception people will have sometimes when we're doing storytelling is, oh, well, I'm not funny. Does mine have to be funny? No, not at all. Now the flip side of what makes people interesting is what makes them boring. One thing that makes people boring is if they aren't prepared. A story should have a clear beginning, middle, and end, and if it feels like a story doesn't have that, people get impatient. So you should know where you're going in your stories, and I'll teach you how to do that, how to map that out, but you should plan that, have a beginning, middle, and end, know where you're headed. It also helps if you have a point. It doesn't have to be a monumental, like, deep thought point. That helps, but it should be a point that's relatable, like, people be crazy or something like that. It should be relatable. And the last thing is it should be relatable. If people don't believe your story, if it's not relatable, if there's nothing in it that they can latch onto, it's boring. One cue in quote unquote real life that you can tell that you're being boring is if someone goes, wow, that's crazy. And if they say it a couple times, cool story, bro. Any one of those, you're boring people. I would suggest that this week, as you know, for your assignment, you have your persuasive speech reflection, and then this other assignment based on this video here that I'm going to give you. But I would also suggest start thinking of topics, start making a list. One of the ways I do CTAs is I always have an ongoing list, but start thinking of what are some of the things I can talk about. And that's what are things I'm interested in and what are some ways that I'm interesting. And that'll have me move on to your next assignment. This is what I use for my notes. If you're wondering, what is she looking at? I have on my dresser here the notes that I'm looking at. I have it right there. Anyhow, you can see it in the... Alright, so to clarify, after you finish this video, this is what you're going to post for your video in the discussion post. You have several options. This, of course, will also be typed, but just to clarify, if you're just going to do it quick right now, here's what you're going to do. So you're going to film a 1 minute or less. If you can accomplish the task in less, do so. 1 minute or less. Because again, Schoology will not take a longer video. We need to be able to watch it so we can comment. You can either have your video can be a reaction to this video. And by reaction, I mean what I learned. So just summarizing what you learned. It could be what you wonder after watching this. So if after watching this, you just are full of questions like, lady, that told me nothing. Help me. Make yours that. It could be a combination of these things as well. It could be what you think makes a story good. You've seen storytellers before, I'm sure. What you think makes a story good and or bad. Or you could just tell us a quick version of the best story you've heard. Of course, keep these school appropriate. It could be your interests as well. You could just talk about your interests since we're talking about what makes a person interesting. Or just straight up what makes me interesting. Or if you want to just apply some of these things and start out with a first low-risk story without a rubric, without a grading, go for it. So there you go. There's your first video, and as you can see, we're all adapting the camera, and we'll get through this. Let's pull up Mr. Peck. We are Faribault. Thanks for watching.